Right, YouTube, we are back. Um, Hopefully y'all can tell from the last video, we added the tail, train, whatever you want to call it, the extra fabric that drapes off the back, and an extra little hunch to give him more of his actual contour shape that we were talking about. It didn't feel right, him not having the exact shape I wanted, because he was only that wide. I mean, it's the biggest piece of wood we could find. So I wrestled with the idea, wrestled with it, and I normally don't like adding extra pieces of wood onto a carving, but in this case I had to. Hopefully it turns out well. I'm not thrilled with how it looks right now, but it looks better than it did as far as just giving you that profile that I wanted. And we've just drawn on some where the chains are gonna have to be detailed on, another lock, bell, just all kinds of little doohickeys. There's this weird little triangle shaped pattern right there. These dark spots that are colored in, we're actually gonna cut out to give it those wrinkled, layered clothing looks. But what we're gonna start on right now is we're gonna shape the arm a little bit more, because it's not quite this bulky. So we're gonna have to remove a little wood, reshape it. That way it gives it a little bit more of the, I guess slender would be the way to word it. Because if you look at the movie and other pictures and such, when you do see his arm articulated underneath the robe, it's up here at the shoulder where the point of the cloth will hang down into the elbow. It's very slender, skinny looking, where we have it real bulky right now. So let's just go ahead and have to be very careful because we have all this extra crap here. I don't know if you can tell where I had to lay some thin strips of wood over to try and hide the seam, because unfortunately we rounded the back better than I thought we did, so these weren't butting up against each other flush to where I could smooth out the contours. So what we did is we took thin strips, I mean like paper thin strips of wood, and covered up those seams, and hopefully when we paint it you won't be able to tell. But let's go ahead and make sure our camera angles are where we need to be. We're going to try and thin these shoulders out a little bit. And we're coming in at an angle because we're going to have to round these down, so you don't want to come in with just a straight cut. Like I've said before, you don't want to cut right on your line. You want to be right off the edge of it. I'm hoping these camera angles are good, because as big as he is now, he's gonna have to be positioned in some weird angles in order to make some of the cuts we need to make. And I have no idea how the camera is going to work on that. I don't think I've ever carved one that is as wide as this. That's because we had to add that addition on. Like I said, I'm not happy about having to add it on, but it gives it the overall look that I really wanted, but just couldn't get with the size wood I had. And the way we attached it, in case anybody's curious, is the same way we did the horns. We put some wire into one of the pieces, and then buttered it up against it and glued it. So the wires are structurally holding it, as well as the glue. I am worried though when we go to do our ridges of the horns that we're gonna break a horn, because they seem a little fragile. Not where they're attached to the head, but just that arc. Alright, we're just going to try and round over some of these edges we just caused. But yeah, I spent the entire afternoon yesterday, I mean, hours, I forget how many hours, but spent the entire afternoon yesterday, just trying to get the little hump right there and contour into this tail area, and it was just it was rough. Like, I wanted to video it, but just trying to get those shapes in there, it was just hours and hours and hours of just test fitting, carving some more, test fitting, carving some more. Because like I said, we rounded the back so well that these two pieces here, I actually had to hollow out in the middle with an arch so they could sit up against it. And these strips hide the seam pretty well. I mean, I think they stand out when you look at it, but they hide it pretty good. Like I said, hopefully when we paint it, it'll just give you that look of the patchwork type material that his robe is made out of. If you look at pictures of him in the movie, if you look at pictures of him and if you look at him in the movie, his robe is like a patchwork of different red velvets and just dirtiness, and so hopefully it plays to our advantage. And hopefully adding the real material will work, and that can help us out even more. But like I always say, we're gonna carve it as best we can in case that fabric doesn't work out. What was the last thing I did? Twisty the Clown, yeah. Twisty the Clown. I was gonna do real fabric on him, and then I just liked how he looked so well. Just wood. It just seemed kind of pointless to try and put real fabric on him, and it would have been difficult too, with all the seams that would be visible on him. Where it seams on this guy, if we attach the fabric, seams on him, we can try and hide on the shapes of the arms and such. And plus, like I said, his robe is actually like a patchwork quilt type deal anyway, so any odd lines and shadows and stuff like that from, say, the glue or whatever that holds the fabric on, any of that you can attribute to the overall look instead of it looking like crap. If that makes any sense, people. I'm trying to be mindful of these camera angles. The last video clip had a few bad angles. Alright, that's pretty good. Alright, so here's our contour of the arm. Goes down. Yeah, it's better. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot better. Alright, let's do this one. Now, see, this is the elbow joint. So we're going to do like a V cut to remind us that that's where the elbow breaks. Break meaning bend, guys, in case anybody doesn't understand what I meant by that. I'm going to go right up against the line we drew. And remember, we're going in at a little bit of an angle, so it's not a straight flat line, because we want it to keep that contoured shape. Because remember, it's fabric sitting over the arm. Now, daggone horns in the way. And look, here's a good pointer. I don't know if y'all have seen me do this, but now we got a sizable piece of wood here that we need to get out. But we can't get all the way through to the other side. Like, I can't come from this side and come from the other side because the just the block of wood's in the way. Our character's in the way. So anytime you run into that kind of issue where you get a big piece and you need to get it out and you don't want to break anything around it, after you've made your outline cut, you make some cuts along the grain, because those are easier cuts to make. The wood doesn't want to fight you, it doesn't want to shatter and splinter and all that. You make them like that, and then you can come across them again. This is across the grain, and see how they just start popping out. See that? That's how I remove large chunks of wood. I used to try and document how I get my rough form out, where we start with square block and get down to our rough shape, and it was just awfully boring in my opinion. I say that's where a lot of the most work that doesn't feel like it's accomplishing anything happens. Like, you get to carving sometimes and you don't really feel like you're making any headway. But the worst one is when you start out with that square block and try and rough it out into a shape that you can work. Now, some people just take it and they just start hacking on it without a template, which I commend them for, but I like to have a game plan. I like to get that general shape out. I don't want to use the actual corners of the wood to try and make the face and the nose and all that, just because I just think my way's easier as far as getting your shapes and everything like that, and more freedom when you're trying to make the wood work for you. It's harder than making, or what am I trying to say? Jesus. When you're trying to make the you work for the wood, it's harder. Whereas if you make the wood work for you, it's easier. That's what I was trying to say, guys. It's like a tongue twister, jeez. So that's why I always like to make my rough forms. It's where you take that template, put it on there, and just make that general shape, the outline of the body or the animal, whatever you're working on, and then you go in from there. Alright, let's edge out this elbow notch a little more.
Snowball throwing, that's what I do. How I'm longing to ski.
And one thing to keep in mind on this guy, which is a little difficult to remember at times, is just how the fabric drapes on him. It's gonna be tough when we add a lot of those wrinkles and stuff in there. We're closer to being done than we were in the beginning, obviously, but we still got a lot of work to do as far as just fine details. Those are always the more time-consuming ones and less glamorous to watch, in my opinion. We've done the stuff that I think your average person holds their interest, is stuff like the face and the horns and the hands, stuff that really catches the eye of people who aren't real big into wood carving, and it's just the more exciting parts, I guess, because you're actually seeing it come together, come to life, however you want to word it. Whereas those fine details, there's more for people who understand the craft and understand the amount of time and work and attention that goes into doing something like that. Just cameras all over the place today. This is starting to look, guys. Yeah, not bad, not bad. We gotta round it more though. And if you all are ever trying something like this, if you see where I've already drawn all the chains on, like see these for example, the reason they stop there is because the arm's draped over it. They carry on, but they're underneath the arm, so you don't see them. But say you do like I did and you draw them on there right now, and you start doing carving, you knock them off, it's no big deal. You can draw them back on later. Because where I usually try and stay as close to the actual original design as possible. When it comes to the chains and stuff, I mean, give yourself a little freedom. As long as they will wrap generally how they're supposed to and everything, then who cares? Yeah. See, that's better. See how more, not frail, but that's kind of the word that comes to mind. The arms look now. Yeah, I like that better. This side. I don't know why that wood is just so I almost cursed, sorry guys. I don't know why the wood is so crummy on this side. It's just so frustrating where it doesn't want to cooperate. Alrighty. Yeah, those arms look better, guys. Alrighty. Let's see. I'm gonna edge out a little trim there. Make sure y'all can see. So see, all you're doing is doing a vertical stop cut. The reason it's a stop cut because you're going down, cutting the wood there, and you come up against it at an angle like this, and it should just pop right out. And then you have a nice little separation between the head in this case and the trim. See? Hope y'all can see. Make sure these angles are good. That horn is driving me nuts here. Alrighty. Oh, while we're still filming, let's go ahead and see if the camera will cooperate and just notch out some of these big folds in the fabric. Save us from having to shrink it down. Alrighty. Doesn't look like much right now, but if we smooth it out, like we haven't even taken sandpaper to none of this yet, which I played with the idea of not sanding it, because I thought some of the knife marks would add to the overall look. But there's gonna be some spots we're gonna have to hit with some sandpaper. I'm really hoping these camera angles are working for you guys. Sickle blade, as I call it. There we go. Alright. wedge it in there.
What do you think? Oh, no. It should be something unusual, some kind of a novelty. Tell me, please. What do you think would be a novelty up there in the room? Who knows? Maybe we can dig up a Democrat from the stoner.
This place really needs is a dynamite act.
Nice. Look, it's like a real thing, something like
Wallace and Davis.
oh, honey, you could get them there too. Wait a minute, Wallace and Davis. Okay, Bob, Bob might go back. Get the girls in here and there. What do you think? What do you say? That's a great idea. It's half a great idea. Young lady, give me a New York operator.
Okay, so I'll look at it.
I don't know what he's up to, but he's got that Rochester amnesty look again.
Is that bad?
Not bad, but always expensive.
Alrighty. Got the big notch cut out. Now you gotta try and round out any squared edges. Now we clearly have more work to do later, tying these in kind of like a wave. But just trying to get the general shape right now. These are looking pretty good. It's one thing I can say for anybody who does wood carving. You just gotta have a good visual, I wouldn't necessarily say imagination. Imagination helps, but you gotta be able to really visualize what you're doing, what you want to do, because it really really helps in the long run. There's nothing worse than just going in there carving blind mentally, just because you see it on paper and then trying to put that paper onto wood doesn't always work out. You got to try and visualize. At least I can say these pieces I added on are all from the same block of wood that he's from. It was the leftover top half after I had to saw it to get the size block we wanted. So it's plenty long enough, it's not wide enough. Which I've run into that problem before, and like I said, I could have done what I've done before and just scaled down the template. But then I just feel like that takes away from how much detail I can add to the face. I don't think it really ever causes an issue as far as detailing the body or whatever, but the face. You really, the size knives I use and everything, you really got to have a good amount of wood for the face. I mean, you want your face as large as possible to add as much detail as possible. And like I said, the size of the knives, it just really restricts what you can do on smaller carvings.
That joke is old. The answer is to kill the dog on Sunday.
That's not the way to stop a dog from biting you on Monday.
How would you ring up, above?
And the doggy's teeth pulled out.
Oh, Mr. Bones, that's terrible.
Yes, Mr. Bones, that's terrible. Mr. Razorlock.
What is wrong with you?
Well, I was the doctor.
Tell about it, dude.
Had to say one day he fell right into a great big well.
Y'all can hear we're watching the old Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye movie, White Christmas in the background. If you like good classics like I do, it's a great one to watch during Christmas. Not really big on musicals in movies, but at least in this one it works. There's some musicals I try and watch, and it just, the way they incorporate the songs, it just breaks up the story too much. It feels too fragmented. That's a good way to explain it. It should flow easily. And being that Bing Crosby is a singer and Danny Kaye is a pretty good dancer, it tied in really well. Like, it made sense why they would randomly break out in song and dance. I mean, Danny Kaye can sing a little bit, but not really. So hopefully these camera angles are working. I want to do all this work and then y'all not actually be able to see it. The point of these videos is to show you guys the process, and hopefully y'all try it yourself. Like I said, I'm really thinking about sending any extra rough forms. I call them blanks, but they're the rough forms after you've stenciled the tinsel, after you've put the stencil on and you've cut it out and got your rough form of the body. I thought about sending the extra ones I have to people and sending the template with them. That way they have a good picture to reference and have them go to town on it. And maybe they could even share the video of their attempt and see how it came out. Just thought that might be a neat idea. Anybody who agrees or has any other ideas, let me know in the comments. Alright guys, not bad, not bad. We're gonna tie these in a little better so they come up. Gotta try and make them tie in together, all the wrinkles. We're gonna do that since this video is probably pretty decent length. Let me get a wide angle here. Alright guys, we're gonna fiddle with these folds in the fabric here, and we'll be back with our next clip.